Hi, I'm Ashley Adamson, and today we're going to talk about the trans plateau. What is that? It's sort of like the flatlining in your personal growth and change as a trans person. This is sort of like a later stage transition problem that I don't think anyone really talks about. So I wanted to dive into that today because I think it's actually a really important topic, especially for later stage trans people. And I kind of realized I was in a little plateau today as I was thinking about my voice. I have a pretty decent voice, but there are areas of my voice that I can improve, such as how I use my vowels. Sometimes I get a little lower in, like, if I just lower it a little bit here. This is often where I speak. And there's parts in my vowels where I should actually be raising them. So I thought about, that's actually an area where I can improve, even though I'm 3.5 years into my transition. I've done a lot of the things that I've wanted. There's still areas of improvement, and I've kind of let this sit on the shelf. And I could continue to let it sit on the shelf, which is where I see a lot of trans women in particular kind of like slow down their transition or plateau, whether that's in kind of like how they present, their fashion sense, or even with their voice. Voice is one of those things that I feel like a lot of trans women push off or just don't improve and spend a lot more time building. And I believe that one's voice is super important because it's obviously, I speak all the time, but it's also like an identity thing. I think we associate one's identity with voice so much that you get used to the idea of your own voice and you associate your identity with that voice. So when you transition and you change that voice, it really helps you shift your own perception. That being said, I think there's actually still plenty of room for me to grow in my voice, and I wanted to catch that, and more importantly, this higher level abstraction of the way that we exist as humans and the way that we think as we move through things that require us to put in energy and effort and time. So if that's something that you want to kind of dive into a little bit more, we're going to do a deep dive on that topic. And if you've got some tea, please join me. I got my tea here, and let's dig into that. So I think like in anything that requires effort, and I talk about this in my Trans Kung Fu book, which is all about applying oneself, putting in the practice, putting in the energy to becoming a better person and helping you move through your transition in a way that's going to make your life better. You have so many things that you need to work on. If you are trans and you are transitioning, just think of that laundry list, or actually don't think of the laundry list of things that you need to do, because that's probably a huge list, right? And that probably, how does that make you feel when you think about that list and all of the things that you need to do and that need to happen? It's a lot, right? It's so much, especially the earlier you are, that list is huge. Of course, there's so many nuances in there that you'll add to later as you get along in your transition. Like more recently, I think 2 months ago, I started doing my nail polish. Like that's a pretty late stage transition thing. I know a lot of people who are very early in their transition and they do their nail polish. Like, do you do your nail polish? Is this something that you've been into? So like there's plenty of little details. And as you move through this kind of world of progressive progress, let's just call it progress, the way that you make your way through this and you create progress, you kind of attack the most important things, the most valuable things that are really going to reap you the most benefits. Something that I put a lot of focus on later in my transition, and I call that out because I didn't actually think that I'd do this. Breast surgery and facial feminization surgery, these are later stage transition things that I decided on. Voice was something I actually started pre-taking hormones, I think 6 months before taking hormones, because it was really important to me to have a good voice. But, I got good enough at my voice, and then suddenly all of these other things get prioritized. Like, I'm making YouTube videos now. I'm moving countries. I want shopping. I want to date guys. I want boobs, blah, blah, blah. The list goes on. And so now I'm circling back on this. And I've spoken to some trans women and some people that I know through the community on my Discord, which, by the way, shout out to the Discord server and the admins there. Y'all are amazing. You can join that down below. Some people have gotten kind of in this plateau, and just by watching my videos, they realize that they're in a plateau and that there's areas for them to expand and grow. I know of one particular story from one of the admins, Lauren, and how she was talking about how watching my videos has transformed her life, and really realizing, because she's transitioned for, I think, over 20 years. Lauren, I'm sorry, I forgot how many years you've transitioned for, but she told me this, that she got into a place where she was still depressed, that though she had transitioned for 20, 25 years, she didn't feel complete, or that there was something missing. And watching my videos and watching my surgery videos and some of my other videos, she realized there were still some things to do. There was still life in her transition to explore. And I've noticed this actually with a few trans women that I've interacted with that were much later than me. I know another trans woman who was 8 years, 10 years maybe transitioning. And just by interacting with me, I gave her that kind of kick to continue to actually pursue things in her transition she hadn't pursued or kind of left on the shelf. And for me, I'm returning back to this topic and realizing there's other areas for me to transition. So like, that's the really tangible transition stuff. But what I also want to talk about now is digging into the higher level aspect of this, the deeper personal growth and development aspect. Like, are you the type of person that's going to feel comfortable just being in a state where you think, you know, this is good. This is pretty solid. Like, I think I'm just gonna stay here. Like, this is good. Are you okay staying there for the rest of your life? Because I feel like when you are in a solid place, you will typically start to look at the other things that are not so solid and things that you do need to press forward on and change, which is super important. I never actually learned German, and I just put that on the list of things to do, but there's so many other things that I need to do that I just can't prioritize it. But at some point, staying solid is eventually going to feel like there's actually room there to grow. And maybe it's worth opening up that door and asking yourself, where can you invest time to actually see some change that's going to make you happier? And when I read on a YouTuber comment about how changing his voice actually changed the quality and the retention of his viewers, I thought, wow, okay, my voice actually has a huge impact on your listening and experience of me. Plus, I do want to sound more feminine. I do want to experience my voice in a better way. I feel like I've kind of just gotten a little lazy with it. And you know what? I think there's enough reason to invest. There's enough reason to grow and build here. Of course, there's many other things that I can grow and build, and you have to kind of decide which ones are priorities. But I want to make this a reminder to you to think about the areas in your life where you feel like you've plateaued. Where are areas where you've stopped growing? Have you stopped developing your fashion sense? Have you stopped developing your connection with your own femininity and how you express that? Do you remember some of the earlier times in your transition where you felt like over amazed at the gender euphoria and the experience? What areas like that can you pursue and grow and foster and support now that you're later in your experience? What aspect of you is calling for another version of yourself? I'm probably going to make another video about this specific topic, but I should call it out because it's important. I realized the other day that there's a softness within myself that rarely gets opportunities to really expand and express because I'm so focused on being precise, moving things forward, and I've had to have this survival mentality since my childhood because of the things that I've had to grow through, that sometimes I don't allow my own softness to emerge and to experience. the dating that I've been having recently has really fostered this softness. And so I stood there in the shower feeling that own softness within me and how it's being cultivated, and realizing that there's a lot of growth and personal development in my own softness that I can still pursue and that I can still grow into. So let this be a reminder for you that maybe if you're not transitioning or you're already in a happy place, there's always something where you can improve your life experience and grow from. And there's the big things, the big ticket items, like I have to move here from Berlin to the America in a couple weeks. Those are big ticket items that I need to work on every day. But there's also these more subtle, more subconscious patterns that you need to think about and work through sometimes, because if you forget about them, that payoff will never be had because you'll never see it. You'll never know that it's there. And sometimes those little things that you feel are small can have tremendous payoffs that could transform your life. So I want to remind you about that. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you to my patrons for supporting me. If you want to check out my book, if you haven't read it, it's right here. And join our Discord group. We love you. And I'll see you in another episode soon. Bye.